Okay, I'm going to make a video as I'm grading your paper. Hopefully this will be some good feedback. Um, if after watching the video you have questions, let me know. If you allow me to share this video or at least set it to public so that your future classmates or the students that come after you can see it and hopefully learn from your mistakes and your successes. Anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Let me go ahead and start this process. Let me share my screen. All right. Let's see, should be up. Yep, all right. So here we go, looking at your lab. So first of all, I'll let you know, well, I see now that you said you didn't want a video, but that's okay. You don't have to watch this if you don't want. Of course, if you hear me say that, then you obviously are watching this. But again, even if this is a waste, that's completely fine. That being said, so usually I just look at these and just try to remember what you wrote. I don't usually go back and forth and check to make sure that, your hypothesis questions after the table match your hypothesis questions before the table. I usually don't do that unless I see some sort of red flag. So with that in mind, let's move forward. I'm going to just try to remember what you said. So you're saying renewable, you expect renewable energy to go up, hydro to stay the same, wind energy to stay the same, solar to increase, geothermal to stay the same, waste to increase, wood to decrease. You're thinking solar saw the biggest increase and wood to see the biggest decrease. Okay. And you think non-renewable energy saw the greatest increase. All right. I'll try to remember that as we move forward. Let's go take a look at your table. Good. You included the years. A lot of people have been not doing that. Now, this being said, I don't always compare your data to the data that's on the website. Again, I do it randomly, but then also when I see red flags. So let's take a look here. We're going for conventional hydropower from about 250. Well, let's not do about. It's pretty small changes here. So 253 to 256. So yeah, small change. That looks about right. Wind went from about 430 to 450 something. So that's about a 20 something change. That looks about right. That sounds about 5%. Sure. Because 10% of that would be 43. Half of that, 5% would be about 20 something. So yeah, that looks good. Solar power nearly doubled, right? 142. Yeah, because if you add it, not nearly doubled, but if you add 100 to it, that would be 242. So it's about 100, right? So I can see that's about right. Yeah, all right, that looks about right. Geothermal went from about a little over 16 from a little under 16. Yep, so that seems about right. Waste biomass went down just a little bit. Again, that seems about right. Wood biomass goes down just a little bit. That seems about right. That might be a little bit large. Yeah, let me check that. And here's the reason this is important. Let me pull this up. If you look at the notes that are left on the original, we define, did it increase, decrease, or remain the same, right? That's what you're trying to figure out. And we defined what it means to remain the same. So if we come down here, actually go up here, excuse me. Yep, remain the same, right? So remain the same, we're saying is anything between 1, basically between 1, right? And if it's anything greater than 1 or less than -1, we're going to consider that not remaining the same. So for that reason, because this is such a small number, I just want to double check it and make sure that that's not incorrect, right? So let me pull up the calculator. So we have, we started at 11, we ended at 11.18. So we subtract what we started with, which was 12, so minus 12, and that's the difference. Good, negative 0.82, and that's what you have. We divide that by the original, which is 12. We multiply that by 100, and look at you. Great job. You got it correct. It was my looking at it was incorrect, but Anyway, let's move forward. Renewable total 870 something to about 980. That 110 difference. Yeah, that looks about right. Non-renewable about 3,200 down about 3,100. Yep, that all looks about right. So again, you notice I didn't check all your math. I usually don't unless there's some kind of red flags. I also want to commend you for this. Um, you could have done whole numbers like I did in those examples, or you could have done like one decimal place or two decimal places. You chose to do two, which is even better, and I've not even mentioned that. And you also chose to do you kept it consistent, right? So for each one of them, you used two decimal places. So great job on that. Matter of fact, I'll give you an extra credit point for that. Anyway, let's now look. Now that we've got your data, let's take a look at your hypotheses. Right, my hypothesis was correct. Overall, the consumption of renewable did increase. That's correct. Actually, before I look at that, let me put this in my brain. The only ones to decrease were the biomasses decreased and non-renewable decreased, and I would say technically geothermal stayed the same. So let's move forward with that in mind. All right, so my hypothesis was correct since hydropower remained the same. Yeah, I go with that, right? Because it's less than one. Good job. My hypothesis the consumption of wind energy remained the same was wrong since it increased. Good. Hypothesis solar was increase was correct. Very good. So geothermal remained the same was correct. That sounds right. Let me just refresh my memory. Geothermal. Yep, that is correct. For waste biomass, you thought it would decrease. Wait, my hypothesis was that the waste biomass would increase. So I was incorrect since it decreased. So really quickly, off the top of my head, I remember you saying waste biomass would decrease. So let me go double check that. Waste biomass, nope. See again, I was wrong. And this is why it takes so long to grade. Anyway, waste biomass, we're talking about wood biomass. My hypothesis of the consumption of wood biomass decrease was correct. All right. Solar being the largest increase is correct. Let me double check that again. Yep, solar by far a lot more. Wood biomass the largest decrease. Again, let me double check that. Wood biomass, yep, that is correct. And my hypothesis is non-renewable energy source largest is incorrect. Very good. Very, very good. It's a shame you didn't want a video because I might be talking to myself and you might not even see this video, but so far you're doing a great job. I forgot to put that +1 extra credit. All right, the reason I guess the solar energy consumption would have, okay. So this question is not saying why did you guess that solar would see such an increase? This is like saying, forget your guess, right? The one that did see the largest increase, which is solar, why did it see a larger increase than the rest of the renewable sources? So that being said, let's take a look at your answer. The reason I guess the solar energy consumption would have increased the most was because I feel that everyday people using it for their homes. All right, so this will suffice. Even though you're explaining how you formed your hypothesis, this still kind of explains why it would be solar over the other ones, right? Because they're using it in their homes, right? Most people don't have a way to do wood biomass or waste biomass or hydropower or wind at their house, right? Yeah, good reasoning. I think wood biomass consumption decreased the most because of the fact that while trees are a renewable source, the overconsumption of them can have negative effects. Very good. That is different. Now, yeah, actually, that's perfect because that is very unique, right? Only wood biomass requires you to cut down trees, right? The rest of them do not. So that is something unique that probably was the result of it being decreasing more than the rest. Looking at that, I think the overall consumption of renewable energy increased because Americans are using more. Okay, that being said, plenty of Americans are still using the more prevalent non-renewable sources, but as renewable energy sources are being more commonly accessible, they're being used more. Very good assessment. There's so many ways you could go on this. I could probably do a whole lab based on this one question, because if you were really to truly answer it, you would look at all kinds of different data sets, but that's very good reasoning. Why did we look at multiple years? Why not just 1 year? It's question 32. I think we required to analyze the past 3 years rather than just the most recent to show the change. Good, right? Change. Because as you can see here, if you were to look at this, you'd be like, all right, if you want to look at, I don't know, 2024, Like, what is the most prevalent, wind, energy source for non-renewables? And you would correctly say wind. But when you look at the trends, right, which is with the percent change, even though wind is the most, man, solar is up and coming. So, solar you would expect might catch up to wind. Anyway, moving forward, next is the graph. Let's take a look at your graph. Amount of energy used by different energy sources by year. That's good. You've got the years down there on the x-axis. That's good. Kilowatt hours, good. Technically, excuse me, it's trying to kick me off. Technically, this is billions of kilowatt hours, right? So you will lose 1 point for that. So -1. But other than that, it looks very good. And again, no, not again. You did have the choice, right, for a bar graph or a line graph. And, now that I've been looking at a number of them from you and your classmates, honestly, I think bar graphs would be better, because, yeah, you can see what, which energy sources have done what. Well, no, this is pretty good too. What you can see here, you can see this big old change, right? That's a big sharp increase. This is also a pretty sharp increase. So, yeah, this is good too. Not that you would have lost points for that, but anyway, moving forward. So that's the 1 point you've missed. And then right here, it's just to save it as a PDF before you upload it. That's not that big of a deal. It's easy to do though. So it's free points in a way, unless of course you don't do it, in which case it's not free points. Anyway, let's look at the math here. It's 39 questions, right? And some of this math is really easy, but I'm going to use the calculator anyway, just to show you. So this is supposed to be 39, plus you had the 1 point of extra credit. So we're actually taking it out of 40, which, help your grade. And you missed 2. So 40 minus 2 is 38. Again, divided by the total points possible, which is 40. That's your percentage, right? 95%. Multiply that by 25 points. So you earned 23.75 points. If you have any questions, please let me know. And again, if you let me share this video, I will give you some extra credit.